people just keep cutting all of this food, and what you don't realize is like you're hurting yourself more by doing that.
Yo, Coach Jenks, what's going on?
That
Welcome back to another episode of Cave or Conquer Fitness Simplified. And I think one of my biggest peeves in the gym is like when people like brush up real close to you and don't say excuse me, or like don't try to find a different path. Like I'm like
uh,
I'm like, really? That's what we doing? Like, are we really that close? I'm like, or they'll like see you V-lining somewhere, and they would. I don't know, and I haven't figured this out yet. I haven't figured out if this is just like a human condition, like because humans actually crave closeness. They crave like being social and stuff like that. I don't know if it's like their way of trying to get my attention to have a conversation because I literally completely ignore everybody, even the gym staff in the gym. Not like in an intentional way. Like, if they come up to me, I have a quick conversation, but I'm like, oh yeah, no, I ain't using that. Boom, throw my headphones in, and then like I'm back
yeah.
at it. But like I just don't like being body on body, like real next to people. I'm like I don't. I'm like, what are we doing here? It's kind of weird, but anyway, that's my gym peeve of the week, and so I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird, but do you ever feel like people just be in the way?
See, I don't think so. I feel like again, I feel like I'm
I'm
blessed
just going
with.
to all these ghetto gyms. That's my
Yeah,
problem.
I feel like I'm
My
just
gym's all
blessed. Like I
ghetto.
just go to a good gym
You just
that's
got that
got
high speed,
good.
but y'all ain't got the Tootsie Rolls though.
Oh fuck those Tootsie Rolls. We don't need that.
Planet Fitness strikes again. So
Ah,
this brings us to, what I'm saying, our topic of the day: gaining, losing, maintaining. And so, what says you when you thought about this topic? What comes to mind first?
so what comes to my topic, or what comes to my mind when I think about this topic is phases of training and how you shouldn't look at training as something that is just a linear process. I think something that has been way too overly focused in the last however many years in the fitness industry is just weight loss, weight loss, weight loss, weight loss. There's always this new diet out. It's always cutting calories or this cardio or this that, and it's always focused on losing weight. And what I'm seeing happening with a lot of people that I work with is I'll get their like 3-day food journals, and they are insanely under eating for what they're supposed to be. And even though, like even though like they might come to me and they might be like a little bit overweight, they're not fueling their body. So like what's happening is when you don't fuel your body, not even from like a caloric standpoint, but you start digging into like micronutrients, which I won't get super specific with that, but people don't realize that a lot of those smaller like micronutrients will play a huge role in having a functional metabolism and making sure all of the body systems are running properly. So what happens is people just keep cutting all of this food, and what you don't realize is like you're hurting yourself more by doing that. So instead of continuously looking at trying to like lose weight and constantly lose weight, we need to start looking at something of more of, okay, where are you at? Have you been consistently dieting for super long? And if so, dieting isn't necessarily the way to go. Like we need to probably start upping your calories a little bit, get your body comfortable, and get you to a certain point, maintain you there for a little bit. And then when all of your habits are in place, you're eating consistently, your workouts are consistent, your sleep and your stress management has gotten better. All right, now let's start looking at, putting a little bit of stress on your body by cutting some calories back out, and not by anything crazy, but nice, slow, and like methodical. You do that for a while and then just kind of maintain again, bring the calories back up, let somebody sit, let your body readjust. And I think what people will find is like their progress, even though they might not crash diet and lose 20 pounds in a month, but if you start looking at the long game, you know their physiques are going to develop, they're going to become more healthy, their digestion's going to get better, which means their energy, their immune system, everything else is going to get better. And then next thing you know, it becomes easier to lose weight. It doesn't become such this significant emotional event because you're no longer fighting your body by just constantly starving it.
Well, and that's awesome, because when you talk about having a whole meal, like in those things, and I've got to be realistic with myself. Sometimes you get in a manic rage where you're like it's getting hot outside, but you're like, I want to keep my calories down. But you
Mm-hmm.
don't realize like your body is actually demanding more of you, and you need to be drinking more water. You need to be consuming more of the good stuff. You know what I'm saying? To
Yeah.
actually fuel your body, because it's easy to get manic and be like, well, I'm trying to lose weight, so I got to do this, do this, do this. I can only eat this, and I had to explain to somebody because he reached out to me for tips, and I was like, no. I'm like, don't start doing this. Don't start focusing on the abs. Focus on the process. Right now, we're building habits.
Yep.
I was like, here's a plan. Here's something just basic. Here's a basic shell, and just do this for the next, 2 to 3 months, and stay consistent and build those habits in your life. Now we can start, curving. You can curve diet right now, but you don't want to go like hardcore cold turkey where you're starving yourself all day.
Yeah.
Because he was like, yeah, oh, I ain't really even been eating. I've been feeling so bad because, whatever happened. And I was like, bro, wrong answer. Get you something to eat. Make sure you're fueling your body so you get what you really need. Because a lot of people, focusing on physique is hard, because remember we talked about this a few episodes where people like they'll show like they'll take a bunch of pictures of in their cutting phase, and that's all
Mm-hmm.
they post year round, which is super unhealthy, because it's like you'll wake up and look at yourself, and some days I look a little bloated, more bloated than normal. Some days I wake up and I'm like super, ripped looking. You know what I'm saying? But if I'm always like chasing that, that ripped physique all the time, like I start to take hits in other areas.
Mm-hmm. And what I think too, and when we talked about this, because I even talked about how I try to make my Instagram very, very, very transparent, and even more so now, not even just physically, but even through like mental challenges that I go through, or healing and that process and how that kind of plays into my fitness journey, because it's like I feel like people need to be more realistic about what all goes on. There's a lot of people out there that compete or model or whatnot, and they throw up the best pictures that they've got. But the thing is like you're human, which means your life isn't perfect like that all the time. So if you're constantly exposing people like to this, like they think this is now the gold standard, like this is what they need to achieve. And so what I kind of try to do through my page, and I actually threw up there was a girl that tagged me in a post the other day, and she said, because she just said, she was like, I knew if I tagged you, like I knew you'd be perfect for it because I knew you would do it. And she was struggling. She's gotten into her off season, like she's gained weight. Pretty new competitor, and anytime you go into an off season after being super lean, it's really hard. It doesn't matter who you are or how well like your mental like frame of mind is. Like it's really hard to get from being super shredded and something that you rarely see on maybe like 1% of people to going back to looking normal, because now looking like normal in your eyes after being surrounded by like a bodybuilding community, like it almost makes you feel like you're way worse than what you actually are. And so I posted a side by side of my off season, and I mean, we're talking like what I looked like in like April, and then what I looked like a few days ago. And I put on that post, I said, love your seasons. Each season's got a purpose. So like your off season, like your on season, grow and learn from all of them. And basically tagged her in it and was like, this is for you. And I think people need to be so much more transparent and so much more realistic. And I even tell people, I've told clients now, because they start comparing their journey to my journey because of how much progress I'm making in comparison to them. And it's like, look, like I've been doing this, like I've been lifting for 10 years. I've been competing seriously as an athlete for 3 years. And I was like, right now, like we're still doing all of the building blocks for you. Like we aren't at the advanced level yet. Like we're still just building the part of the process to get your habits right, to get your mind right, to make sure that you're looking at this in the healthiest way possible, because that in the long run is going to be like your key to success. So it's a long tangent. I can't hear you.
My bad.
There
Had
you
myself on mute.
go.
But what I was saying was like it's super powerful because when you say that, it's like it's you versus you, not you versus Robbie, not you versus, you know what I'm saying? And it's the future you of who you want to develop, not you of you last year, right? Necessarily, because you have a totally different set of parameters now and a totally different set of goals. Even if you did have similar goals, right now it's like you're aging, so you're becoming wiser. And when you become wiser, you can utilize that information to, for your advantage. And like a lot of times, like that's why like I'm glad you talked about like the fact that like you try to post realistic stuff. And because it's like realistic stuff doesn't necessarily get the views. It doesn't necessarily get the likes. But what it does is it gets you to self-love, to be like, okay, I was like this, I've been here before, this is a part of the process. And that's one important thing about when people vlog, they started vlogging and they started blogging about the process. It's like it's undefeated because you might come across your old videos and like, okay, this was the spark that I needed to keep going and moving in the right directions, even though my goals have changed. Because recently I went from, I wanted, my goal was lose weight, then I lost the weight, then my goal was to get into better shape, and I got into better shape. And, a lot of the stuff was geared towards the old, Army physical fitness test. But now it's geared more towards ACFT, right? So I'm like, okay, there's an opportunity here for me to also work on my flexibility, my mobility, and taking more of an active approach to working out versus just the old like, okay, let's do some bodybuilding things, focus on this, I like that about myself. So that's super powerful. And going forward, it's one of those things where there's something I really wanted to talk to you about. So our Reddit Q&A, what are BCAAs and what type of role do they play in our lives?
Oh man, so BCAAs are branched chain amino acids. It's kind of more of like a basic supplement that you can get. They're not bad. What I would say is they have essential amino acids out now, and they're basically helpful building blocks in repair and recovery for your body. If you're going to use something, I would say use essential amino acids, because some of the branched chain amino acids, like they're actually found like organically in your body. Your body can make them. The essential amino acids are something that you have to get from your diet.
Okay. And so what things in your diet give you, like more so the essential amino acids? Because I think it was interesting, like when I was deployed to Kuwait in the DFAC, they actually said like, you don't need all these supplements because you can get, amino acids naturally. So what are some good sources of aminos?
Yeah, I mean, and you're going to look at a lot of different, you're going to look at different like plant source proteins, meat proteins, like I believe most of your meat-based proteins are going to have all of your amino acids in them. And then you kind of have to like pair it. It's a little bit harder, but it's doable to kind of pair different like vegetable sources like legumes and stuff like that, in order to get it from, if you're like a plant-based person. So
Okay. All right, cool. Well, so eat your veggies, eat your meats, eat your regular foods. Try not to be so dependent on, the extra supplementation of the BCAAs. Don't drive yourself crazy, because one of the worst things to throw you off on your fitness journey is, paralysis by analysis. Because we want to make sure, especially with this podcast, it's all about simplicity. And the more that you keep it simple, the better the foundation you're gonna have, because you're gonna have actual solid building blocks. See, there's one thing, when it comes to like, building and remodeling and doing construction, a lot of people want brand new houses, but they don't understand what the soil and the land was like that they built that home on. So later they got basement flooding because they didn't build it right. So This has been another episode of 𝗬𝗃 podcast. We appreciate y'all. If y'all have any questions or any feedback that y'all like to send in, you can reach us at TommyLee@proprag.com. Again, I'm Tommy, and
I'm Robbie.
this is Robbie, Coach
This is
Jenkins.
Robbie.
Shout out to Coach for giving us another awesome episode. So we appreciate y'all. Stay tuned. Stay tapped in.